This morning, I start off my day with a walk, after meditation, with a walk with my dog, and I do my affirmations. And the first affirmation that I do is, I live in the awareness that I am one with universal mind. And I started to ponder that in light of what I was going to talk about today. And so, we get into this idea in spirituality that we're going to find and identify ourselves completely and totally with universal mind. And right then, we're destined to fail. It's impossible. And so then I pondered, and I remember reading this article about Ken Wilber this week. And it's on. I commented on it on my Facebook page. I don't know if you know who Ken Wilber is. Ken Wilber is a 21st century philosopher, psychologist. He brings the theory of everything all into one place. He's one of the smartest human beings on the planet. And to try to read his work is very difficult for me because it's so beyond what I normally would think, so deep, so involved that probably it would be like listening to Plato or Socrates, or one of these individuals. And there was this thing that this gentleman, who is also a student, wrote about Ken Wilber, about the failure that's happened in his life. And so I wanted to share that with you. What Wilber taught me is that no depth of spiritual experience can negate our physical and our primal drives for power, lust, and validation. As primates, we're wired to seek someone to look up to, as well as to be looked up by others. This is our primal and our biological nature, and we must accept our lower impulses and keep them in check. This is an individual, Ken Wilber is an individual who meditates hours upon hours every day. And what ended up happening is that no matter what, you can't transform and go beyond into one mind because we are in human mind. And those qualities that are there of lust, of power, and these other things, they're going to always be with us. And we seek to not have them there because we're doing our spiritual practice and we're saying, I must be failing because they're not in me. I can't get rid of them. I hear that all the time. They'll say, Reverend Lee, I can't get rid of this no matter how much I meditate, no matter how much I pray. You can't get rid of them. They're part of the nature of being human. But the key thing is about being the nature of human, you have the ability to keep them in check. And you see, that's what spiritual practice is. It's that idea of how do we keep those feelings that we have, that everyone has, that are in check. It's like I get guys come up to me and say, hey, Lee, how do you stop looking at that beautiful woman over there in a bikini? I said, I don't. What I do is I appreciate her. I've chosen not to lust after her. You see how there's a difference there? That's how the conscious mind, your conscious mind, can shift how you look at your primal urges. The idea is wealth. We've made this thing of wealth be so dirty. Wealth is not dirty. It's the attachment to wealth that is dirty. But if I had $150 million, do you know what I could do with that? The impact that we could make in the world, how we could change things? With money comes the ability to do things in physical form because money is simply an energy that we take in and that we can use outward. The question I want to ask is, what is your intention as you express that outwardly? So knowing that these innate qualities are within humans, do you think we're going to deal with some unpleasant people? Some unpleasant situations in our lives? Without a doubt, they're going to be there all the time. To think that they're not going to be there, that's sort of fooling yourself. That's really going to set you up for something that's not there. The fact of the matter is, it's not who comes into our life, it's not the experience in our life, it's how do we deal with that experience. So really what I want to talk to you about today is how do you deal with the unpleasantries, the situations, and the people that we come across in our lives. And I'm going to share with you the first things you got to do is to ask a couple questions. The first question you're going to ask yourself is, when that happens, you're going to ask, do I have the complete picture? Don't just react, but ask the question, is there other aspects of this that I've not taken in? And then you got to pause so it's not a reaction. You're giving yourself time to process. Is there something outside? And you've got to be able to have the spiritual or mental or emotional maturity to sort of step back and say, okay, my emotions say this. What could it be? So what was it? Thursday night. My wife was doing the women's group. I was home doing stuff. She comes home. It's like 9:30ish, right before bedtime. She hands me a notice that was put on the door at Jaeger Suites. That's where our suite is. And says I've got certified registered mail and I need to go pick it up. And it's addressed to Reverend Lee Wolak to Agape. And guess who it's from? The IRS. Okay, now we're going back to this. Do I have the complete picture? All I have is a registered letter in front of me with those 3 letters. And I said this a couple weeks ago, those 3 letters will make anyone's butt pucker. No other way to say it. Because we have bought into the idea that there's fear there. You see, that's an idea. Well, I didn't pucker real deep. And I asked the question, I said, there's something that I'm missing. It's not a big thing. You know, everything's in alignment, yada, 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 yada. So the next day I go to the Chamber of Commerce. Afterwards, I drive over to the post office. I pick it up. I did a quick prayer. And then I opened the letters, and there were 2 of them. There wasn't just 1 registered letter. There were 2. And I opened it up, and I looked at it, and it says, we're about to, what did they say? Confiscate your property because you owe us. One of them said $57.14. The other said $59 and some other cents. And they're all the fault of Susan Kennedy in the back. Because Susan was on our payroll, and for some reason, it slipped by us that we didn't make a payment to the government regarding taxes. So it was a total non-issue. I went home, I wrote the checks out, sent them in. It's a done deal. You see, did I have the complete picture? You got to wait, you got to ask. Remember, time is only relevant because we create its relevance within our own mind. Okay, that's question number 1. Question number 2 is, how does this situation or this relationship or this person serve my highest values or my highest purpose? That's a real good question. Because if you're dealing with someone, and let's say it's a family member, and it's a family member that just gives you the bejeebas, you can't, that person cannot walk through your mind without you beating them up. Or you can feel something from that person, right? You've got to ask the question, is this relationship allowing me to live to my 5 highest values that are the most important thing in my life? And is this person serving me in any way at all about living my life purpose? It could be family, it could be friends, it could be work, it could be job, it could be social situations, it could be church, it could be anything. Anything. You've got to ask the question. Once you ask that question, you have 3 choices of how to respond. The first choice is you leave the situation or you leave the person. When you've made a determination that this situation is no longer serving me, my growth, my highest values, you leave the situation or you release the person. I like to use the word release the person. I literally pray people out of my life. And I'm going to share with you, that sounds pretty cruel, but what I basically say is, I know that infinite wisdom within me now guides me to only those people that serve my highest growth, my highest vision, help me bring out my highest purpose, and I now know that the people who are no longer doing that are released from my experience. You see what I'm doing is I'm setting a path within my own mind to create where only the people that are going to allow me to experience that which I desire are going to have a relevant part of my life. Well, why wouldn't I do that? Would that not be a declaration of self-love? Self-love says my purpose and my values are the most important thing. You see, a lot of people look at me that don't understand our teaching and say, well, Lee, you're really narcissistic. Well, no. What I realize, if I'm not doing this, then I'm not self-loving. If I'm not self-loving, I can't love you. I'm not being authentic. If I'm not being authentic, why bother living? Why bother being in this life? Do you think the infinite power, the infinite presence that created itself into us wanted us to live with limitation? I think not. I think this power and presence wants us to live beyond. It says you've got so much that you can give, so much you can be, so much you can do, so many lives you can touch. Don't be small, be big. And I love the term that Ken Wilber uses. He doesn't call it universal mind. He calls it big mind. I love the term big mind because when you think with your little mind, that limiting little mind, it's got little thoughts. Why not start thinking big mind thoughts? Thoughts are the beyond. And realize if there are 7.5 billion people on the planet, why not surround yourself with people that support you, that accept you, that grow you? And not people maybe at this time in your life that you're emotionally or you're not ready to deal with. You know, there are times in our lives when we're not emotionally capable of dealing with certain types of individuals. That's okay. Release them. Get strong without them around. And then when they come back, you can handle the situation. But in this moment, it may not be the case. So you can leave the situation. That's a pretty easy one. The next thing you can do is you can change it. You can change the situation or you can change what the relationship with the person is. But here's the key. The only thing you can change is you. So you have to change your perception of the situation. You have to change who you are in relationship to a person. You can't change the other person. You can wish and dream and hope, yell, scream, have them promise, have them write out a contract. People have an innate desire and innate traits within them they are not going to change unless they are compelled from within themselves to change themselves. So we've got to give up all attachment to the idea that we can change another human being. We cannot, but we can change our perception of other human beings. What was it, the movie, The Water Boy? I happen to be a big Adam Sandler fan. I know. Not the highest quality humor in the world, but remember the other slide about all the bad qualities that humans have? I have the Adam Sandler quality. In The Water Boy, the coach of his team had the fear of this other coach of the team that was ranked number 1. And his perception was that this guy was a bully, that he was going to beat him up and he was going to take all this. It was at the very end that he changed the perspective of how he viewed him by putting the face of a little baby on top of his grown body, and now the fear disappeared. Now you can do that. Anyone here got a mother that gives them grief? Don't raise your hands. Picture this. The next time you look at your mother, put my face on their body. Will that not confuse you? If not my face, put the face of a little Pekingese dog on your mother. Do you see how immediately you take the edge off, you take the vibration off? And how did you do it? You simply changed your perspective. In the last 2 weeks, I got 3 letters from the IRS, one personal, 2 business. Both of them were nothing. They were very minor things, all resolved. I started to contemplate this morning, and I realized, why is it we put so much emphasis on insignificant, irrelevant things in life? What if we put the emphasis on being fully present with whoever we're with and whatever we're doing? Do you know how that would change your life to be fully present in a moment? Fully present means I've let go of all the past, I've let go of any desires toward the future, and I'm right here in this moment. And the second I become present, what happens? My body starts to change. How does my body change? Well, there's no longer stress in my body. Because when you're fully present, there's no stress. And when there's no stress, what happens to your body? It goes back into a state of homeostasis. It starts to rebuild in a healthy way. Your whole life changes by just being present in the moment. Because why? Because this moment is exactly the way the divine thinks, where the infinite is. The infinite doesn't know the past. The infinite doesn't know the future. The infinite knows this moment and this moment only. And in this moment, it's perfect. If I sit here and I just focus and I look into the eyes of another person, that's a God moment. That's an infinite moment. That's a perfect moment. There's nothing more that you want. Only those human qualities of lust, greed, and all of those things start coming in and saying, there's got to be more, there's got to be more, there's got to be more. But the more we get, the less satisfied we are, and the more we want. I love the idea of simplifying life. And I find that every week I'm doing more of that. I thought I cleaned out my dresser. And yesterday I brought out probably 25 pieces of clothing that I've given away now. It's about simplifying. It's about letting go of the attachment. Oh, that was once my favorite shirt. Yeah, it was once my favorite shirt. It's no longer my favorite shirt. Go to someone else. We've got to learn to let go in order to be present. So changing it means just simply changing our perspective. The last one is we have to learn to accept it. We have to learn to accept that this situation is happening. This person is going to be a part of our lives. But here's the key. When we accept, what we do is we find out, how does that support my highest values? How does that support my life purpose? You've got to be able to link it. You've got to link accepting a person, an event, as being a part of your life. And when you link it to your highest values and how it supports it, when you link it to what your purpose is, now there's a reason for it being in your life. Do you see? When I can link to the idea that I accept that I'll get notices from the IRS because that's what the IRS does, and I accept that, I link it to the idea, well, I live in the most free country in the world. I live in a country where I have unlimited potential to make as much money as I desire. I live in a country where when I pay my taxes, I get roads, I get schools, I get these common services. So I'm linking the idea that the Internal Revenue is a part of that which makes this country great, which allows me to get up in front of you and speak the type of words that I speak and not being afraid of being persecuted or that I cannot say these things. So I now link that that's a relevant thing in my life, and now because I've accepted it and I've linked it to my highest values, it no longer has a charge because I see the good in it. Isn't that interesting? I don't know, the IRS should be filming this. Charles, send a copy of this to the IRS because this is a great advertisement for the IRS. I don't know that anyone's ever done that. Praise be to Jesus. Anyway. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar. Render unto the Lord the things that are the Lord. Appreciate both aspects. When Jesus said that, he said, honor your physicality. Honor your spirituality. Balance them. Bring them together. And allow them to flow because you're here to experience. This is what I want to say. You're not ever going to get rid of unpleasant situations and people. Why? Because you're here to experience. And if it's all pleasant, it would be like the Stepford Wives. You ever watch that movie? I know, I dream about it all the time. But it would get boring. It would be married to married or have a partner that's a robot. We wouldn't want that. There's juice in excitement. There's juice in spontaneity. So it's really interesting that when I say I live in the awareness that I'm one with universal mind, and I embrace my physical perfection, and I see the balance of my life in this moment, that's the perfect affirmation. It's the one mind and it's the little mind living together in harmony, in balance, seeing and supporting each other. That little mind you have, that big mind we all share. That's the oneness. That's what we're seeking. That's unconditional love. Let's pray. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.